back, run it up, run it back, run it up, then run it back, yeah.
Oh, happy Wednesday, y'all. Welcome to Run It Back. Michelle, Chandler, Lou, Boogie. We had a rundown, and then I don't know what happened out there in Atlanta in the middle of the night, Lou, but you were on it, which, by the way, weird hours. And you immediately got on the text thread and said, I guess we're changing up the whole show because in the night, the Clippers announced that Chris Paul is no longer with the team. They're parting ways. He also posted a very sort of cryptic short post as well. In a statement, Lawrence Frank said, quote, "We are parting ways with Chris, and he is no longer on the team. We will work with him on the next step of his career." He also emphasized that no one is blaming Chris for the Clippers' struggles. Keep in mind, they're out there in Atlanta to play the Hawks later on today. Lou, I'm going to start with you. You're our guy when it comes to all things Clippers. What the hell just happened, sir?
Yeah, just talking to a few different people over there and just trying to understand what transpired in the early morning hours of this team being in Atlanta. But from what I've gathered, that brought an end to this abruptly was there was a few scenarios and which CP was holding people accountable from players to staff, from coaching staff up to the front office. And, from what I understand, there was a situation where he even addressed the team and apologized and said, look, my criticisms are coming from a good place. I want us to be a good team. I want us to get this thing right. And he was just holding guys accountable. Now, how some of that talk was taken or interpreted, that's up for the players and the coaching staff that was involved and how they felt about it. And then down the line, there was another scenario where he was critical of front office as well. And I think that was the one that broke the camel's back. That was the straw that broke the camel's back when he had some criticisms for the front office as well. I think that's what brought this to a head in the early hours in Atlanta. Like I said, I'm in Atlanta. The Clippers are in Atlanta. It was about 3-something in the morning. For whatever reason, I was up, but I was up, and and that's what I was understood. But for a player who's gonna go down as a Hall of Famer, for somebody who's gonna possibly have the opportunity to be the first jersey retired in the Raptors. Over there at the Intuit Dome and be the first to represent Lob City and be the first person to represent the Clippers in that manner. This is just a sour way to go out. It looks bad on the Clippers' part to do this in the late night hours. It looks bad for Chris Paul. It looks bad for all parties involved. And I'll let you guys get in there a little bit. But this is another L. Frank thing. When a team is playing bad, when you're losing, and Boogie can attest to this, Chandler can attest to this, everybody's talking trash. Everybody got something to say in the locker room when teams are losing. And, when you – uh-oh.
Y'all leave us. Yeah, we got you.
My thing was saying that it was muted. But, these guys know, listen, when you're losing, everybody's talking trash. Everybody got something to say, and everybody is being critical of the scenario at hand. So – if that's the only thing that Chris Paul was guilty of at this point in his career, he deserves to have something to say. And this is not something that you can't waive him until January and you can't trade him until December 15th. But to have a guy like that go home in his last season in this manner, it's a bad look all the way around the board. But that's what I gathered. This is what this is all about. Him holding people accountable, and however they interpreted that is however they interpreted it.
Yeah, I think just the timing of it is strange, right? Obviously in the middle of the night and the beginning half of the season here, and we're talking about Chris Paul, arguably the greatest Clipper of all time. Like Lou said, jersey's probably going up in the rafters, first one ever, first ballot Hall of Fame player. And so the timing of it is weird, and who it is makes this a story and makes this interesting. By no means is Chris Paul the reason that the Clippers are 5-16. He's playing 14 minutes a game. He's only played 16 games, and he's averaging 3 points a game. It's not like this is an issue with why they're bad. This clearly is an internal issue. This is frustration boiling over, where clearly Chris Paul, like Lou alluded to, kind of jumped the guys in a film session or a shoot around or something like that, trying to rally them. And I think with a vet group, that probably didn't go over well, and guys are frustrated and guys are banged up and they're losing a lot of games. So this is a huge surprise to me. Definitely didn't see it happening, especially with him going back to the Clippers, where he is probably the best player of all time there. To do this, in early December after a frustrating, horrific start is just shocking. And again, I hate to see this for him. I don't think this is the last we see of him. I hope it's not, because he deserves better, and I want to see him go and play somewhere else on one of these teams that we talked about all season long that need a point guard. But it's just a bad way. It'd just be a bad way to end his Hall of Fame career. And I wish I had info on it or more details on it, but it's all just very surprising and shocking.
Man,
Boogie. It's a lot.
Words of mine, they don't love you like that, and this is this is so apparent in this situation. I can't sit here and say I agree with it. I think this is complete BS. He is one of the greats in this game. He's probably one of the last great pick and roll PGs to ever play this game. He put the Clippers on the map, him and Blake Griffin. I just feel more respect is deserved in this situation. And the real issue I have with all of this is the same reason you love them is now the reason you hate them. Throughout his entire career, this is what Chris Paul was highlighted for, being that voice, holding people accountable, being a leader in the locker room. For the young guys, for the old guys, he held everybody accountable, and that was something that they loved about him. Now you move into this situation, and he's at a different point in his career, and now it's being turned into a negative. And that's the part I hate about the NBA, and I hate how they do veterans towards the end of their careers. It's like your experience, your knowledge, your advice no longer means anything because, you're on your way out of the league, when it shouldn't be that way at all. It should actually be the complete opposite. And I know I've been critical of CP in the past, and, I still hate the shit out the guy, but at the end of the day, he deserves his flowers, and you can never knock him for being one of the greats in this game. First ballot Hall of Famer, no question. Like Lou said, this is an L. Frank move. I've seen it time and time again. I actually experienced it firsthand. I've watched him end multiple careers for veteran guys that should have been able to, go out on a better note. Lou can even speak on that as well. It's just something about this guy and his short man syndrome, and he's an egomaniac. And it's complete BS. And it is what it is. I'm not on that side anymore. So I say what I want, I say how I feel.
Yeah, you were always quiet, Boogie. So I'm glad you're.
Why we signed you, Boogie? Let her rip.
Like I said, I don't agree with this. This is a bad look for the Clippers. If I'm the owner of the Clippers, I'm looking, at L. Frank and how this makes my organization look. Obviously, Chris Paul being one of the biggest legends to ever put on that uniform. If you treat him that way, is anybody really deserving of respect when it comes to that organization? And I just feel this is a stain on this Clippers organization.
Now, can I ask you guys a question? Can I ask you guys a question? Because is there a world where this is like a mutual decision? Like when I was playing in Memphis,
that time of the night.
No, you can tell by CP's post that this isn't.
No, I'm just saying. Do you think they were like, listen, you're never gonna play, you're not gonna play. You can either ride it out or just.
But didn't he know that?
That's not what this is. Did you see what CP posted?
Yeah, I did. I'm just saying, like, there's been situations. There's been situations where teams give players like ultimatums and say, listen, you can be here, you can do this, you can be another coach. Not obviously not Chris Paul. You could go to the G League, you could do this, or you could go home. You don't think this is that situation?
Nah,
listen, I'm willing to bet my money. L. Frank isn't on this trip. And again, it's 3:30 in the morning in Atlanta. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer. You're talking about the guy that you have possibly chosen to be the first person to go up in the rafters to represent you as such, So listen, my experience with the Clippers organization, A1, A+, great relationships over there. Love Ballmer, love everything about what he's been able to build and what he represents and what he's trying to represent and build as a culture. A lot of these incidents are coming down to an isolated person, and that person is in charge of a lot of these decisions. You just don't do a guy of that stature like that. Okay, he's at the end of his career. He's not producing at the level that you want or expected him to in year 20. What is this, 2021, season 2021? And you tell him to go home in the middle of the night. You just don't do that. So for me, this isn't a Clippers thing. It's an isolated issue with L. Frank in the way that he's gone about treating certain players that he feels like has been disrespectful or not on the same page with him. He has a way of doing business with these guys and
flat out kissing his ass.
It's bad optics. That is bad optics.
It's just bad optics. So I want to make it clear, this isn't a Clippers thing. I was a part of building culture there. I was a part of trying to make them a respected organization in the city of LA when you're sharing that fan base with clearly a Lakers town. I was a part of that. But there's one particular person in these scenarios who is the common denominator for how things look in the optics when it comes to these type of situations.
So how does he still have a job? Like, I don't. You guys have more experience with him than us.
I mean,
that's a great question.
That might be. I might not be qualified to speak on that part. So I don't know. That's over my head.
Chandler, you're going to learn that in this business, a lot of people that shouldn't have jobs keep jobs for a really long time and continue to be promoted.
I don't remember
the last thing I've heard something good about him. I've never heard someone be like, oh, you know what I mean? And I don't know him at all, but I just don't understand where the value is.
This is my issue. What qualifies you in that position to just end career after career after career of high quality players when you haven't achieved anything in your position or any position that you've ever been in the NBA? You've never been a championship GM, championship coach, what qualifies him to be able to do these type of things to different players in their careers? That's my issue with this. Like, what have you proven to be able to end a career? It makes no sense to me. Yeah. Like, even in the short time there, you haven't done anything.
Yeah, it's just kind of like it's kind of like a slap on the back on your way out type of thing. I was present when Blake Griffin was traded. My personal situation. This is a person that told me I can relax. I'm not getting traded. 15 minutes later, I was an Atlanta Hawk. And now we have this scenario. So, and you guys been working for me. This is going on year 3 now. I've held my tongue and not been critical of L. Frank because that's not really my style. And I didn't want to be the scorned ex-girlfriend. I didn't want to be that person. And so I never spoke about him in this manner. But when you do this to a guy, and I'm going to keep harping on it, that 3 was going up in the rafters. That 3 was going up. And you do this to that guy? Like, okay, cool. He's talking shit. Okay, cool. He got a lot to say. Chris Paul has always had a lot to say. You know what you're signing up for when you sign Chris Paul. He's always had a lot to say. You know that. He's an acquired taste. So now that he's talking and you're the target of talking, you release him or you tell him to go home in the middle of the night on the road. Come on, man. You don't do that. That's bad business. It's bad optics. But this is the person that's represented. And again, are we going to get an L. Frank press conference this week? Is he going to stand out in front of the cameras and take questions and yield questions about the state of where this team is right now? Is he going to do that? Or is he going to hide behind the shadows and allow somebody else to stand in front of the camera and not hold those questions? These are answers that we need to know. At this point, let's take the gloves off and let's get this thing situated and let's get it all figured out.
I think the timing also, Chandler.
The books and make them speak up.
And there's that one. There's punchline. By the way, this is like a week or so removed from a video and, hey, he announces his retirement. It was all very feel good in the building, which is I think all of that is what makes this weird.
Wasn't part of the plan, I'll tell you that.
No, and Ballmer's a pretty loyal guy, Lou. So I'm at the end of the day, he ultimately